Every Saturday we search high and low to find that unique game that will potentially change your life for the better in our First Look weekly show. And today we find a unique gem of a game and it's called Frosthaven. At first I thought I would encounter another Heroes of Might and Magic clone, but there is a whole card system behind it that may make or break the game depending on what you prefer. The tutorial teaches me that each character can activate 2 cards each round, which will determine the character's movement and combat capabilities, since each card has a movement section and a combat section. Besides the default attack and movement, cards can also have special abilities. Use the cards to defeat your opponents. With this knowledge I start a new game. I can choose between 4 difficulties, and since I'm new I will go for the standard for now. Afterwards I have the option to create a party consisting out of at least 4 unique characters. First I make the Banner Spear character, which I had in the tutorial as well, which is a defensive melee character. So mostly melee focused with some buffs and air affinity. Afterwards I make a ranged caster called a Deathwalker, which is focused on curses and dealing dark and death magic damage. And the third character is a Bone Shaper, a summoner of swords, also focused on death magic. And lastly a balanced ranged character called a Drifter, focused on bleeding and range damage. Each character has 30 coins to spend on equipment as well, which I try to match with their abilities. I will go more in depth on the characters and what they can do once I played a few levels, so I can give you a afterwards as well. Now there are a lot of personal quest options, both while selecting and also as a battle goal in the next screen, and so the first quest begins. It starts with an introduction story and then right into the first combat. A group of Algok's enemies. The mission is to kill them all, but also to protect allies like a city guard. In the top right the card initiative is shown, and this is incredibly important as it will also determine the turn order. Having at least 1 card with a very low number will help you move fast, preferably before any enemy turn. My Banner Spear will just focus on tanking, which he has to do right away, and you can choose to burn cards instead of taking damage when being hit. But that is risky because when you run out of cards you need to rest or skip turns to get them back. My casters will focus on dealing damage. For the Deathwalker this is tricky, as she first needs to create shadows on hexes and then can work from these. This will give her range and control like a puppet master. The Bone Shaper will focus on summoning as much as possible, but this will also take time. And lastly the ranger just needs to shoot stuff. Some abilities select multiple tiles and you can rotate these with the R button. A grey tile depicts the caster, a blue tile an ally, and a red tile an enemy. The summons will move automatically, and having 2 characters with armor in front will help tremendously in negating damage. Just as the Deathwalker can manipulate tiles, the Bone Shaper can manipulate summons, making them stronger, and even loot tiles, or even more powerful, resurrect fallen summons when she makes a killing blow. All the effects can be very overwhelming, but the B key will be your best friend in understanding the effects. Also the slow pace and extra confirmations, even on enemy attacks, make it really easy to take your time learning the steps. Despite all that, it might still feel a bit like the game wants to throw all effects at rapid succession at you, to just show you all the great variety it has, which is like learning 4 classes at once at high level. A bit of a slower introduction per character, for example through story mode, or a more phased introduction of spells per character would be a bit more gentle on the less witty or even the less nerdy players. Both cards giving buffs and active summons will remain in the character's active pile, and this way cards can be deactivated as well. The cards have abilities for both movement and attack, but if you prefer to just simply do the default ability, that is possible too. The right side of the card will show a sword or a shoe icon with the number 2. Clicking on that label will just execute the default action, being either to attack or to movement. You can loot during combat, move to a tile with a loot bag and skip all remaining cards. The last automatic action will then be that the tile will be looted. You can also long rest to recover all your cards, which will require you to burn 1 card, and this will also heal you a little bit. Or you can do a short rest, which will cost 1 discarded card, of which 1 will be drawn randomly. Even if you don't want that card, it will cost 1 health to redraw. If you're completely done, you can open the door to the next zone. If you burn too much cards, you are in a bad position, and this may be the end of you right away, as you may run into more than you can handle. Characters can be out of combat for multiple reasons, and one is simply running out of health points. Since you can always burn cards, this is not as likely as the other option, which is having all cards burned and not to be able to take a rest to recover cards. Which basically means if you can't pick any cards next round, you will be exhausted too. This can go really fast and may sneak up on you unexpectedly. But after your first turn, you will quickly find out what works and what doesn't, and this may end up in a victory. In the next screen you will see which goals are completed and who performed the best. After completing a mission you enter your outpost. If you abandon the mission you may pay a hefty fine for being attacked, and most of the time you get an outpost event which can be beneficial. It's a bit tricky to see what resource you actually have, since whoever looted which resource will hold these resources. But you can donate from each individual person once you want to upgrade or build a building. The best way to do so is to use the buttons in the top center to see which are applicable. You could start with building a shabby wall to start with the basic defense and donate the resources if you have enough. Each character can contribute from what they found. The first 3 buildings you have from the start are the craftsman, where you can craft items, the merchant, where you can buy gear and other items, and the alchemist, where you can craft potions. Needlessly to say, you need to figure the recipes out by adding the right items. You can open the map to find missions and thus resources from the button in the bottom right corner. While traveling towards the mission, you may also run into more events. You will find yourself more capable each time and can clear enemies out faster. Despite that, having enough cards to reach the end may prove very hard. Looting becomes more important as you will keep the loot you found even when you abandon the mission. After a few missions, the barracks can be upgraded to level 2, which allows 2 more troops, and they are trained automatically. They will add to the defense of the town when attacked. And after every mission, success or fail, you will pass a day. You won't win many missions early on, they are designed this way. The idea is to simply loot what you can and get out until you're strong enough to do so. You can retry the same mission without skipping a day after you abandon and keep all the loot and experience. And when you do that you will eventually become level 2 with at least 1 character. This is not easy, you will play for hours before you first level up. Firstly you can choose one from 2 new cards, rather basic, and choose what fits best for you. Then go to the perk points, and this is vital as you can now replace a calculative base perk with a higher variant. Important is that your max slots improve, which means you won't fall out of action as fast as you can burn more cards to prevent losing health. And this is also a good time to talk about the cards. You can now start playing with adding and removing cards from your deck. Cards and effects also have certain follow-up actions, and the most risky is the little X icon below a skill. That means the card gains directly to the burn pile and that card cannot be used anymore. Which means you will have a vastly shortened lifespan if you mingle too often with such power. Having such knowledge will make you think 5 times before burning your best abilities on the first turn. A bit similar to the burnable symbol is the persistent bonus depicted with the infinity symbol, which will mean your card cannot be used again but does have a lasting effect. The drifter builds on this. Because of that, in longer fights the drifter will become the superior fighter. You have to carefully weigh in which buffs will be the most useful and only activate those. For instance, the bonus heal and melee damage, or if you prefer range and movement, then those are the options. Other non-burnable cards can prolong those buff durations, and lastly round bonuses will only be 1 round, and they are depicted with the circular arrow symbol. The Deathwalker in turn only has 1 card placing shadows without being burned, so the other ones will all be burned. That's the movement part of the Call to the Abyss card. For example, Eclipse will place 3 instantly but will be gone, and it may be hard to move the shadows deeper into the map. Without shadows your Deathwalker is nothing. And the Bone Shaper is by far the strongest, as she can summon without burning the card except for the raid, which you painstakingly try to hold in the backline. She can then command the summons to attack again with bonuses, but this requires proper micromanagement. And lastly, the Banner Spear should not be underestimated, as the constant healing and movement bonuses can reposition and rescue allies, but the banner can only be placed once, which makes it a weakness. The summon however can be used indefinitely. Besides that, it's an eternal struggle to generate elements like dark, fire and earth, which can be used to empower certain attacks. Cards can also have a little 1 or 2 symbol on that card, and those are bonus experience you gain for using the cards. This also explains why the summoner level so much faster, since the summons all grant that experience, while for example simple attacks won't. Now even the hard quests are doable, even though I have only 1 character left for a certain mission, which was the one, funny enough, normally dying first due to the many burnable skills. Finishing a mission is both a feat of brilliance as it is satisfying. What is also painful is when you finally decide to use a burnable skill and you miss the attack but ruin the card. I think that is too unbalanced, as you ought to get a hit bonus. You miss a lot, by the way, could be me, but enemies a lot less, except for the ranged once they are engaged. Which makes it unnecessarily hard, especially on higher difficulties. It's not hard because it's annoying, but mainly because there's no way of seeing what your hit chances are or the dodge chance of the enemy or whatsoever. Any insight in those elements can make the anticipation more secure. And then came the first boss fight, 2 massive monsters fighting each other and me trying the hardest to keep them fighting each other, which failed a bit, but in the end, victory. This ensured all my characters were level 2. This will help you get stronger and bring better card. This game is very unique and has a pretty steep learning curve, but fights can be extremely satisfying. At first, even when I was struggling with the fight, but the stats, once you notice it, are pretty self-explanatory. This game may still be a demo by the time of posting, so consider wishlisting it and get it once it's released. I had a few minor bugs, but since the game saves automatically, nothing was ever lost. Also, just restart a round if you make a mistake. In that, it is actually not that punishing, so it's no true Iron Man mode. I hope you enjoyed this video and the walkthrough. If you did, please like the video and check out the playlist. It will grow each week with all the great games that may get lost in the sea of early access and garbage. This is why we look for the polished, promising and most importantly, unique games out there to bring them to your attention. Thank you for watching.